Friends of the Congress Reining Demonstration. My name is Rick Clark, President of NRHA, and I'm excited to introduce to you three of the most talented NRHA professionals in our sport today. In 2014, these three men led Team USA to the World Equestrian Games reigning team gold medal in Normandy, France. These three NRHA professionals have won over $10 million combined in lifetime earnings. And tonight, they're going to be riding horses that's won over $500,000 in NRHA competition. I would like to introduce our professionals to you at this time. And first of all, our first professional is Mr. Shawn Flarida. He is NRHA's Shawn Flarida is NRHA's leading rider with over $5.5 million in earnings. Shawn is one of the most decorated riders with 6 Open Fraternity Championships, 5 World Equestrian Games gold medals, multiple AQHA World Championships, and has won every NRHA major event multiple times. Shawn Flarida, everybody, please give him another hand. Our next rider is Mr. Andrea Fappani. Andrea is currently the number 2 on the NRHA leading money earners. Andrea boasts earnings of over $4.1 million and is a 2-time NRHA fraternity champion. Andrea was the 2014 World Equestrian Games team gold medalist. He was on the team as a gold medalist. He was an individual silver medalist. He is a multiple AQHA world champion and has most recently, he was the 2015 NRBC Open champion. Andrea Fappani. Our next rider is Mr. Jordan Larson. As a $2 million rider, Jordan also has 2 NRHA Open Fraternity Championships under his belt and is currently number 7 on the leading rider list. Jordan is also a multiple AQHA world champion and was a member of the 2014 World Equestrian Games gold medal team. As you can see, this is a rare opportunity to have all 3 of these talented riders and trainers in one place at the same time and willing to share information with you. You're going to have an opportunity to witness what they teach you and also to ask questions before it's over. So sit back, pay attention, try to learn something, and most importantly, have fun. Thank you, Shawn. Andrea, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick. All right, I lost the straw pulling contest back there, so I got to speak first. I'd like to thank you guys for coming. I'd like to say it's an honor to be here, seeing as this is my home state. It's an honor to be here at the Quarter Horse Congress. Also, these 2 gentlemen that I'm with are 2 of the best professionals in the industry. It was an honor to be on them with the team in France, and unbelievably talented people. I actually got to do the circles here for you guys and kind of set this up. I think Jordan and Andrea are still fighting who's going to do the spins and the stops. but I'll let them fight that out. A few things on the training as far as for the circles before you really get into it, and we're going to kind of set up pattern 5, which is the fraternity finals for tonight. I'll give you guys a little bit of an idea of what I'm looking for, some of the things to kind of warn against and not to do when you're showing in your circles, and hopefully some of the things that the judges are looking for this evening. Before you really get into your training your horse too much, I think you got to get him soft in his face, his belly, his neck, his shoulders. So once you have that, then you can go ahead and go on into your training. And what I mean by that, a horse has to give the pressure. A horse will usually always go where the pressure is not. For example, I take a hold of this left rein on this horse. He puts his head over there, but why does he put it over there? He knows eventually I'm going to release that pressure and reward him for doing so. So before I go into anything really hard or fast, I want to make sure when I get on my horse that he gives in his pole. I want to make sure that he's got left to right movement in his neck. And then also I want to be able to take my legs and wrap around his belly and make him raise his back up. So when I get on my horse for the very first 5 minutes when I get on him, you're typically going to see me do something like this and limber him up. Make sure he's ready to go do his job. Trot him around, make sure his brain's ready. Then I'm going to go ahead and go on to work. A lot of people say, well, how do you get some of that stuff? You know, when you first take a hold of your horse and you ask him to give, he's going to be a little resentful or not want to give to it too much. Just take and hold him until he goes where you want him to go. A horse will learn from that reward. When I reward him where he put his head, he's going to say, oh, that's what you want. All right? So it's pretty unique. A little bit before I lope off here and go into my circles, I'm riding a horse called Tinseltown's Fly Guy. He actually was owned by a man by the name of Fritz Lehman that lives here in Ohio. I was actually second on him in the reining fraternity. Just a great little horse. He's won roughly $250,000, and just a lot of fun to be around. So I'm going to set up pattern 5 a little bit. That's the circles to the left in the first part of that pattern this evening. You know, the guide on these horses is very, very, very important. And what I mean by guide is he's got to guide off that outside bridle rein, which is going to be the left rein. So how do I go about teaching him that?
You mean the right rein?
Correct. Did I say the left?
Yeah. The other left.
It might be the left tonight on the horse. I got to show. You don't know.
There's a reason why you're a horse trainer.
Hey, they was following me. That's the bad part. So I'm going to pick my hand up, put the right rein on his neck, as Andrea would say. And when he moves over, I'm going to put my hand back and reward him. I pick it up. He moves over. Pick it up again. He moves over. But notice I don't hold my hand up there and just doll him up. A lot of times on them circles, sometimes them horses will lean across the center. In a case like that, I'll let him lean over here. I'll pick my hand up, redirect him, put my hand down. Almost a lot of series of straight lines. So once I have him guiding fairly well, I love the frame of this horse with his neck. It's right out in front of him. He's not worming all over. He's just trying to go do his job. So once I have him guiding and I'm comfortable with him, I'm going to speed him up. I'm going to ask him to go a little bit faster. Then I'm going to come through the center here and I'm going to hum to him and I'm going to let him slow down. When I'm running that large fast circle, I'm going to take both legs and wrap against his belly and send him forward. You guys talk as much as you guys want.
We're fine.
Thanks. I knew that was coming. Notice when I run these circles, this horse's neck doesn't change. He's guiding up underneath himself. My hand's right down on this horse's neck. We're going to come through the center and hum to him. Pray that he comes back. Okay? and rewarding.
Shawn, do you always keep both legs on him when you go fast?
I do like to keep both legs on him to go fast, Andrea. I think it kind of picks his body up, makes him stay in frame a little bit better. But at the same time, I caution people, if you use that inside leg too much, sometimes it'll make him change leads out of that circle. So
Do you keep him there or do you bump him? Do you kind of hold him there?
I like to hold him.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, in certain horses you can take and bump if they're really, you know, if they're not too feely. But he's
And
pretty.
yeah, when you slow down, you take both of them off or just the inside?
This the inside.
Okay.
And Andrea, he's so far ahead as far as his thinking and setting me up, and I thank him for that. But when you just take that inside leg off, that picks that hip up, puts it to the inside, so that horse don't fall out of lead. So
How are you going to get credit circling? Where are you going to get scored?
I'll show you where you wouldn't get credit, and then we'll go back and show them where we do. So if we speed this horse up, and this happens a lot when you're showing. If I slow down way back there, they're not going to give me any credit for it. So when you slow down, I'm going to ask this horse to slow down. I'm going to hum to him and take my leg off right here. That will allow that horse to give him a stride or two to slow down and get collected up. But what Jordan's kind of getting at, if you slow down too early in those circles, even if it's a +1 maneuver, the judge can't credit you for it, okay? In the rule book, it says do 2 large fast circles, slow down in the middle of the arena. So you got to try to do exactly what they say to do. All right, one of you guys want to talk a little bit?
Yeah. I think something that it's real important, and Shawn obviously just showed you, is that the most important thing I think in a reining horse is that he does his job on his own, that we're not forcing him to do anything. And that doesn't matter which maneuver we're doing. We can talk about circles, stops, rundowns, spins. I'm going to touch a little bit about the spins today. The one thing that we want that horse to do is to do the job for us. We're going to teach him to do it. We're not going to try to make him do it. Because if you make him do it and it's up to you to keep that horse in that maneuver, like I said, it doesn't matter what kind of maneuver it is. I believe that all three of us agree that that horse is probably not going to show as well as a horse that wants to do his job. And want to do his job, I don't mean the horse that loves to come out and just do it, but he knows that through repetition he's learned that's the easiest way out to pretty much go back to the barn. They don't love coming out here and probably working for an hour, but they know that if they put effort into it, we're not going to keep asking them. If they do it correctly, we're going to ask him a couple times and then give it up and go do something else. And by training them that way, you're going to have a horse that's actually coming out and enjoying doing what he's doing, and he's not resentful to do it. And by that, I mean that when you walk in the show pen, it's going to be a lot easier on the rider to showcase your horse because you're not going to have to force him through the maneuvers. Shawn showed greatly here how we did the circles and how we're not helping that horse to stay in the circle all the time. If you notice, if the horse wanted to leave, he just showed him where he wanted him to be. And he may be here all day long just doing that one maneuver until the horse does it right. And that's one thing that we always try to do, is to stay in that maneuver or that exercise until that horse is really really understands what we're asking him to do. If you move through him too quickly, I believe myself that you're not retaining, that horse is not going to retain a whole lot, and then you're going to start out the next day by doing the same thing again. I rather work on one thing at a time and get it done, and then move on to the next thing when I know that my horse is really understanding what I'm asking him to do. When we talk about the spins, everybody thinks that a fast spin is going to reward you in the show pen. And obviously the speed is going to help, but we're always starting by teaching the horse to turn correctly. I always ask myself, what is it that I want out of this maneuver? In a spin, I want that horse to take that first step to the side. I believe that the first couple steps in the spin is going to set up the way that horse is going to turn the rest of the time. So I really pay a lot of attention about the first couple steps. Like I said, I don't want to have to pull on his face too much. I'm going to give him the cues, and I'll show you the cues I give to my horses. And I want that horse to find the position where he's going to go. By teaching him that, 1.5 years, 2 years of training, then we can add that speed, and that horse that's talented enough to hold the speed and the position on his own is going to get you that +1 turn. Not every horse is as talented as some of these horses that we're on today. So knowing what kind of ability your horse has, it's going to help you in the training. If I know that I don't have more than a plus half turn, if I keep asking for that +1 speed, I'm just going to make problems. I'm not going to accomplish the +1, and I'm probably going to end up with a 0 turn because the horse is going to lose his confidence. Confidence, it's real important. You want that horse to understand that he can do this maneuver and he's capable of doing it. If you're always training on him because he's not doing it good enough for you, pretty soon that horse is going to lose his confidence and he's not going to put that much effort into it. So I'm always careful how much I can push my horse, but how much I want to back off and let him know that he's doing a good job. So obviously on this horse here, I can start one-handed and start turning, and it'll turn great. This horse just won the Open here with Dean Brown. Robert Santagata owns him. His name is Kashim Malibu's Checks. Great horse, and thank you, Robert and Dean, for sharing him with me for tonight. But I want to really get into how I start turning, and then we'll move on really quickly to the finished product. Like I say, to me, the first step in a turnaround is the most important. The cues I give to the turnaround is to open my inside leg. Here we're going to turn to the left. So the reason why I open my inside leg, because I don't want that horse to confuse the turnaround to a rollback. If I only use my neck rein, that's the same cue as a rollback. And I don't want that horse to jump out of the turn. So I always, inside leg first, I open it up, and then I put my neck rein on. If that horse doesn't move his feet, I'm going to use my outside leg and tell him to move his feet. Now it's up to the horse to decide where he's going to move his feet. This horse knows where to move his feet, and he knows how to stay in the turnaround by himself. But let's say, for example, if I open my inside leg and the horse steps forward like he's doing now, I'm not going to just ask him to turn and pull him into the turn. What I do, I just back him up to where I started, and then I ask him again, and he steps forward again, I back him up. I say, that's not an option. I did ask you to move, but not over there. I'm going to stop you, back you up, and keep giving that same cue. Now he's backing up. If he's backing up, what do? I pull him back forward, and I tell him that's not what I wanted. So he's trying different things. He's trying to figure out where I want him to move his feet. I'm going to move him forward. He tried to go forward, and I told him that wasn't an option. Now he's trying to go backwards. Now he found his step. And even during the turnaround, let's say if the horse loses that turn, I do the same thing. I back him up, and I ask him to turn again. So here I'm not really working on the quality of the turn. I'm working on that horse listening to my cue. Once I start my turnaround, I just have a little bit of outside rein on him. As the horse gets broker and broker, I'm going to take that neck rein off, and he'll figure out to stay in the turn until I ask him to stop. When he takes a few steps to where he stays in the turn on his own without moving out of it, I stop him for a reward. And that's just the basic at the beginning. There's a lot more exercises that we don't have time to talk about. But basically, I want you guys to understand that once I put my horse in that turnaround, I want him to stay in the turn on his own. Here he stepped forward with that outside leg. I didn't like it. I want him to step with that inside leg to the right or the left, whichever way we're asking him to go. That time he started right. And if you notice, I'm not here holding my horse back or here to the side trying to hold him in the turnaround. I've got my hands down on his neck. I just have a little bit of neck rein on him because I want that horse to stay in the turn on his own. The longer I train him and the more I feel him consistently staying in that turn, the more I can ask for a little bit of speed. Just like Shawn said, another important thing to remember is that softness helps every maneuver. Softness in the chin, like he says, softening the back. So if we don't have our horse soft, you can teach him to turn as much as you want, but I don't think you're going to get to the best that he can turn. Unless you have softness in the turn, and this horse has it, because you see once he's in the turn, he drops his neck. You want to be able to touch his face, have a little bit of legs on him, soften him up in the chin, and he needs to keep turning like he is right now. I can turn him loose, and he'll keep turning. I want to be able to pick him up again, soften him up. If I want to, I want to be able to go out of the turn, push him forward, maybe jog a couple circles, get a little bit more softness, get some forward motion. If I've got him to where he sucks back in the turn, be able to go back in the turn and keep turning. So this horse here obviously is really broke, and we can do all that. But if you can't, you can spend as much time trying to turn around, and you can turn 30 turns out of it every day, and you're not going to get the most out of it because it's not soft enough. So remember that softness is going to teach him in every maneuver to be a lot more correct.
Andrea.
Yes.
You're showing pattern 5 tonight, so you're going to stop in the center and you're going to have to spin to the left and then the same thing to the right. Is there anything that you do special when you're showing to try to maximize your horse's ability without making mistakes? Is there anything special about pattern 5 that you have to do?
Well, I think most of the time now we turn always from a standstill. Pattern 5 is one of the few, probably there's a couple patterns that do it, but one of the few patterns that you're loping, you're stopping, and you're turning. So one thing that's important is that I practice starting that turn right after I stop, because I don't want them thinking about the rollback and them jumping out of that turn. So I always practice before I go show. I make sure that anywhere in that small circle, I can stop my horse. And ask him to turn, and he's not going to jump out of that turn. So I practice a lot of small circles, starting the turnaround and stopping. And that's the other part. The shut off, it's real important in a turnaround. I always think that my way of looking at a turnaround, it's a maneuver that's really hard to get points on, but it's really easy to lose points. The better the horse turns, the faster he turns, the harder it is to shut him off. So I practice a lot of the shut off. One little exercise that I do to make sure my horse is shut off is to ask him to turn one way, and then right when I'm turning him, very gently, I ask him to turn the opposite way with my hand. So I'm not asking him to stop, I just ask him to turn the other way. And what this does, teaches those horses when you shut them off to not look over there, because they're expecting the left turnaround after the right turnaround. So you know how a lot of times when you shut your horse off, they keep looking to the left and you get an overturn? By doing this exercise, I'm teaching my horses that when they feel the neck crank, they need to look the other way like that horse did right there. And that's going to sharpen up your shut off. The other thing I try to do, and it's hard for me because it's always been hard, the other thing, I don't think if you don't see where you want to stop, where you want to shut your horse off, it's going to be hard to really get him to shut off. So let's say I'm doing 4 turns to the right. 1, 2, 3. At 3.5, I'm going to look at the judge so that I see where I need to stop. If you're looking down the whole time, it's going to be hard for you to see where you're going to shut off. So I don't try to do it before 3.5, because then it's going to mess me up because I can't find that judge. But if you see it and you turn your head, it's going to be a lot easier to shut off.
Andrea, so you want to turn that horse pretty fast this evening and try to get the maximum amount out of him. When are you going to start asking him to speed up in that spin?
As soon as I know that horse is consistent at a certain speed, I bump it up to the next speed. I think that you can, if you wait too long, I don't think you're going to get your horse confident enough in the turnarounds in time for, let's say, for the futurity. Right here, where these 3-year-olds, I mean, they're pretty young, and we haven't had that much training on them. So in order to get them to speed up quickly, you need to kind of move on quickly. The one thing that I never want to do is move on and ask him for more speed when they're not consistent at a certain speed. I may be August of the 3-year-old deer and only have a plus head speed, but I know that every time I bump it up, he's losing it. I'm going to keep taking little steps and keep bumping him up, but I'm not going to try to get a +1 speed because I know I might end up with a 0 when I go show.
Okay. Now, what about like when you show on your horse, where would you ask him to speed up, like in that spin, after the first half, 3/4?
Really depending on the horse. Obviously, knowing your horse is the most important thing. Knowing how quick you can get him to turn, how quickly he can gain speed, and how, let's say, a quiet horse, I can really start hustling because I know he doesn't get too excited. A horse that actually, the more talented the horse, the more feely the horse, the more I let him kind of do it, you know, depending on the horse. Sometimes I may use my voice and cluck on a horse that's a little bit lazier. On a horse that starts and wants to turn pretty good, like this horse here doesn't feel like you need much. All I do is squeeze a little bit of outside leg, and he starts giving me the speed right away. I don't need to even use my voice. But depending on really the horse, sometimes, no matter what, I never ask it right off the bat. I always want to make sure that horse gets to about 1/4 to a half a turn, and he finds his cadence, and then I try to keep that cadence and speed it up with it.
Perfect.
Jordan, you want to jump in a little bit? Or Shawn, do you want to do the lead changes, and then Jordan will do some rundowns and stops?
Yep, I can. Just a little bit about the lead change. I don't want to take up too much time and leave plenty of time for Jordan on that stop. I work a lot on my horses changing leads from a counter canter. I also teach my 2-year-olds and my young horses. Here again, I use my legs to change leads so much. Make sure that they're getting away from the pressure of your leg. So like I'll take and put my right leg on this horse's belly. When he moves away from it, I'll release that leg and reward him for it. But unless I have this on my horses, I'm not going to ask him to change leads. So almost a side passing. A lot of times on those 2-year-olds, you know, just like Andrea with that spin, I'll put him up against the wall. He's only got 3 things he can do: left, right, or back up. Okay? So teach him to move off your legs. When he moves away, reward him. I'm going to counter-canter this horse to the left. He'll be in the right lead. My left leg will be back against his rib cage. My right leg out to the point of his shoulder. I'm going to make him go around here a couple times. I'll take my left leg off of him, apply my right leg. Hopefully he'll change. And then I will break him down to a trot and reward him for it. The reason I break him down and want to reward him for it, in patterns 9, patterns 10, I think those are the only 2. You want him to check back in, meaning you want him to be quiet, waiting on you. Pattern 9, you run a large, fast circle. Change leads to a small, slow. So you want him checking back in quite a bit. Pattern 10, you go from small, slow to small, slow. But getting back here at the...
You pretty much always do it in the circles, or do you do some straight lines also?
You know, on my young horses, I'll do it in circles, Andrea. As the horses get older, then I'll go in straight lines. Okay. But I particularly like to do it in the circles of my young horses. I like to keep that neck and head kind of straight in front of him. Hopefully, I've already got the resistance out of that neck and that chin. Notice my left leg's against his belly, driving him forward. We'll come through the center there, and I'll ask him to change. Take my left leg off, put my right leg on. As soon as I take that leg off, he's going to stop and say thank you. He's pretty quiet.
If they don't change, do you stop them and side pass them, or do you keep loping and keep asking? What do you do if they don't change?
And that's a great question, because when you guys go home and work on your horses, it's going to be more often that they miss it, particularly at the beginning. I will break them down at a trot. I'll side pass him for, I don't know, quarter of a circle or so, and find out where the resistance is, and then work on that resistance. The reason I come back to a trot, I don't want that horse to get in a hurry and rush through that. I want him to be quiet, change leads, and be soft. After they missed that lead or they didn't obey, there's going to be a resistance spot somewhere, whether it's in his belly, whether it's in his face, did he drop his shoulder too much? Somewhere he's going to tell you what it was. I'll do it this direction here just one time. My right leg will be against his rib cage. My left leg out to the point of his shoulder. I'll come through the center there. I'll change legs. I'm going to take my right leg off, put my left leg on, change his leads. He's looking for that reward all the time. He's pretty used to it, and he likes it. But don't make the lead change any harder than what it is. If you notice, and Jordan's going to be, I think, very the same. When you listen to Andrea or myself or Jordan, we're going to talk about a horse having resistance and taking it away and telling you where that pressure's at. Lead change is no different. When there's something that's malfunctioning, go back to your basic work. And most of your basic work is going to be somewhere where there's resistance or not moving or something. Jordan?
All right. I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about stopping, and we're kind of going over what we're looking for in pattern 5 tonight, because we're going to show that pattern in the fraternity finals tonight. And so what I'm going to tell you is that I'm just going to go through a little bit of what I'm looking for and how I work my horses and try to make them to be the best that they can be when I go show. But before that, anytime I talk about anything related to reining, I like to go back to what we're looking for in a reining horse. And the best reined horse is willingly guided with little or no apparent resistance and dictated to completely, and then it's pleasing to watch. Okay, so when I think about that, I want to keep it very simple for my horses and make it easy for them to do their job. And so what I'm looking for is to try to set my horse up for success. Okay, I'm trying to put him in the best position possible, because a lot of the horses we get to ride today, the hard part is not really the stopping and turning and the speeding up and slowing down. It's all the preparing that horse to do its job the best way it possibly can. And so tonight we're going to be showing pattern 5, so we're going to come off of our second lead change, off the right, going to the left here. And what I'm going to be looking for, and what I've been schooling my horses to do, is I'm going to come off that lead change, and it gives me a chance to kind of gather myself and get that horse prepared to run down and stop. Okay, so we're going to come on the left lead here. I like to look down the pin and find a place that I'm going to run to, and I like to point my hand where I'm going to go, and I'm going to use both legs and drive that horse down the pin to go stop. And the big thing is that it's always, tonight what you're going to see is a really good rundown typically precedes a really good stop, and a bad rundown, typically you're going to have a bad stop. So what I focus on is trying to make sure that horse runs down good. And there's 3 parts of that rundown. The corner, which is right here where I turn left to go run down the pin. And then I need that horse to go forward. Okay, I need it to go forward, because if I don't have forward motion, I'm not gonna be able to, for one, get stopped. But anytime you have forward motion, that horse is gonna line up and run straight. So I'm gonna try to look up where I'm going. I'm gonna make that horse wait for me around the corner here, being willingly guided. I'm gonna come around, make a sharp corner, and I want him to wait. Okay, a lot of these 3-year-olds haven't been shown very much, so they're not gonna anticipate the rundown nearly as much as the older horses. And when I show an older horse, I'm gonna maybe make him wait just a little bit longer. But if you wait too long, it has a tendency to make that horse want to burst off and run and get quick, okay? So the next thing I want to do is, once I get that horse waiting, I want it to run down there in like I call it a 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I want him to run down there in the same stride all the way down. So I'm going to sit back, point my hand, and I'm going to drive that horse down there. Okay, so she was pretty good there. She kind of took me just a little bit there towards the end, but you can see that she ran really straight and she built nice and long. So if she does that to me in the practice, all I did there was just pick my hand up to stop her there. I use my hand, my voice, and then I use my legs, taking my legs off to ask that horse to stop. But what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask her to come back to me just a little bit. She's anticipating coming around this corner right here, so I'm just going to make her wait till she relaxes just a little bit. Same thing again. I'm going to look up. I want to ride that horse the same way. If she makes a mistake, I'm going to correct it. If she doesn't, I'll let her stop. There, she just kind of took off on me a little bit. So all I want to do is just tell her that's not quite what I want. And then we just go around and we're going to do it again. And now this is an older horse. She won the Intermediate Open with Kyle Shaw here the other day. And her name's, I think it's Spooks Sugar Rose. But she's owned by Bob Santagata as well. And so she's been shown a little bit lately. So she's anticipating just a little bit. But same thing again. I'm going to make her wait. If she gets in a hurry, I'm just going to make her wait. When she does the right thing, I'm going to let her do her job. And same thing again. That good rundown is going to help set up that good stop. Whoa. Back her up a little bit. The big thing on the 3-year-olds is that, you know, they don't really know what they're about to do. So I'm probably going to help them a little bit more than I might help an older horse. But if that horse doesn't stop the way I want it to, I'm either going to back it up, or I'm going to work on whatever I didn't like about it. But the big thing is that you got to ride that horse all the way down there to that stop. If you slow down, we've got to make it past the middle marker tonight. Anywhere past the middle marker is a good place to stop, as long as you don't go too far down. But same thing again here. She's anticipating. She wants to go down that pin, so I won't let her go. Just turn her off that rein. Anytime she becomes to where she's dictating to me what she wants to do, I'm going to just take that away from her, and I'm going to go back and ask her to wait on me. So the second stop tonight is going to be on that right lead. She's wanting to lean a little bit to the right. If I'm working her and practicing, I'm going to tell her, stay off that right rein, okay? Then we go back again, and just going to go forward. Always look up and sit back.
So you're looking down the pen where you want to end up, or the point?
I want to look down. I find a place on that fence I want to go, and I point my hand, and if I anticipate stopping, that horse is going to anticipate stopping. And if you notice, my shoulders and my body language is pretty slow and soft. Sometimes, of course, in the heat of the moment, I'm gonna throw myself and try to make that horse stop. But you want to try to give that horse a chance to stop. You don't want to try to make it stop, because the horse is going to be its best when we let them do their job and kind of set them up for the success, and then let them do their job. We can't make them stop. We just want to ask them to stop, and then if they don't, we're going to fix it. But when I'm showing, I'm going to look up, point my hand down that pin, and I'm just helping her down the pin. She wants to take off there just a little bit, back her off and go around again.
Jordan, can you explain what you're doing with your legs? Like when I see you coming towards me, you got one leg off, maybe one leg on. Could you explain some of that?
Okay, so a lot of horses, well, it's very, very important to me that horse runs straight down the pin with their shoulders. And when I come around that corner, I want to come and use that outside rein to tell them where to go. And I'm going to use I'm going to kind of have my outside leg there telling them where I want them to go, and I'll use that inside leg to increase the speed. But a lot of horses will like to lean out towards that wall. And so if they do, I'm going to use my outside leg and my outside rein to keep them straight and move them over. You see, I almost want to fade to the inside, and what that does is it lifts that horse's shoulders up, and it sets them up to run down that pin. And a horse that stops with their shoulders up is going to use their front end freely, and they're going to be a lot more powerful, and they're going to stop balanced. If they lean one side or the other, you'll see them pick their legs up or lose their front end and not move their front end very good.
So your cue to run, it's mainly the legs. You don't use much voice in the rundown?
I don't use any voice. It's never really been, there's a lot, obviously everybody does something a little bit different, but for me it just doesn't work, because stopping is all about timing. And you want that horse to stop at the peak speed so that his shoulders are up and he can keep his shoulders up, and it's easy to get stopped. If you're slowing down a little bit, it's going to make it a lot harder to get stopped. Or if that horse is taking off, it's going to make it so you want, like I said before, when I'm schooling those horses, trying to get ready to go show, all I really care about is that rundown. Run down correctly, because I know that it makes it so much easier to stop. If that horse wants to stop, all I got to do is let him, and I feel like that's a reward for a good rundown. So if you see me working my horses, you're going to see me working a lot on rundowns and just hopefully a little bit on stops. But the main thing is I'm trying to teach that horse to build from the corner the same stride all the way down the pin. And you can see she's not quite doing that. She's building really good in the beginning, and then she kind of gets quick and wants to get down there. So that makes her get quick going to the ground. Okay, so the slower, even though you're going fast, it's not quick. Those horses you don't want them to shorten that stride up. You want them to build the same way, and then they'll glide into that ground really pretty. And giving them a chance and being soft with your hand, if you're abrupt with your hand, obviously, it's not going to be as pretty to watch. You guys have anything to
What
add?
about when you're getting ready to roll back? Can you give these guys an idea of how long do you usually wait, or kind of what you're doing for that rollback?
I don't wait long enough usually.
I knew he was going to ask you that.
I know. He's picking on me a little bit. Okay, so I trot out of a few rollbacks. But
I didn't say a word. I just asked him.
We knew what you was thinking.
I'm not thinking. I try not to do
okay,
that too
so
much.
I try to wait, okay? And it's hard because a rollback is a quick maneuver. So it takes a lot of discipline. You got to be planning this out. You can't just wing it. So even like in the go-round here, I got in a hurry and I rolled mine back like a farmer. But what I'm looking for is I want to have that horse wait, rock back on its hock, and I'm going to look and then ride that horse out. I'm going to get turned around and then ride it out of there, okay? And so it's very important that this ground is slick, okay? And they've got big shoes on. So if they're still stopping, you're going to trot or you're going to have a horse flip its head upside down if you try to get rolled back while they're still stopping. So it's really important to wait, let that horse get its feet, get turned around, and lope out of there. And everybody's got a different way of doing it, but if you put your leg on too soon, you're going to end up out by the wall. You're going to drive that horse out of that rollback. So I'm going to get turned and then put my leg on and ride out. And if I try to look up where I'm going, because that helps me lope up out of there and be in correct position. But anything we do while we're showing, we're going fast, but the slower you are and the more patient you are, the better it's going to be. And it's hard. I mean, it's to have the kind of discipline to do that at the speed we're going is difficult. Any more questions?
I think in every maneuver, that's just what he said. I remember Gaetan Gutierrez a long time ago, he told me it's like driving a car on ice. The faster you go, the slower you want to move. And it's the same thing in a reining pattern. The faster you go, the more we try to slow everything down, especially on these nice horses that know their job. They know what they're going to do, and they're going to try to do it even harder than what we want them to do. So the faster you go, the slower you want to think, and the slower you want to, by thinking slow, the slower I think it's going to move your body.
And it's really, really hard to get rolled back on them horses that get really deep behind because they're pushing and grabbing dirt as hard as they can. And that's, we got to worry about not trotting out, getting rolled back clean. There's a lot of things right there. And I think Jordan said it the best, the timing on the rundown, but not only on the rundown, the timing on that rollback. Those things are so important. And he's one of the best at it. But it is tricky to get, really is. I think Rick was going to go around and ask some questions, or if somebody had some questions in the audience for us, we'll be glad to take 15 or so minutes and answer them.
Thank you. Is it on? When you do a rundown, some horses, if I'm not mistaken, would favor stopping in a certain lead. Would you switch leads on a horse to make them stop more efficiently?
Me personally,
Any of the above. You've all stopped one, right?
me personally, I've maybe only tried it once. I've seen it done successfully, but I personally no, I'm not going to. I mean, if it's that bad, yes, but not likely, not.
At that level 4 level that all three of us are playing on, you can do it, but you'll still get beat. I mean, them judges want to see, there's a reason they got you stopping on both sides of the arena. They want to see him stop on both leads. So if he'd have to stop plus 1.5 on one lead for me to try it.
Better be a good lead changer.
I never do it. I get myself in more trouble than anything trying to do it. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wouldn't do it.
Anybody else?
It might happen on accident.
More likely.
That all the time.
I have a horse who knows the job way better than I do. And when we practice the rundowns, she prances at the far end, and then she speeds up and stops too soon. Now, from what we saw, part of the answer is to circle and get her to relax. But I think the problem is more me than her. As soon as we do one rundown and rollback, she's anticipating it every time. So have you any advice for that and somebody who needs to learn more herself, meaning me, not the horse? Thank you.
You want to take it?
Sure, I guess I'll take that question. We a lot of the major event, or not a major events, but a lot of the affiliates and the local horse shows, they have a thing what they call like paid warm-ups. And if you go back and you think about what Jordan started with on that rundown, he would come almost like a half a circle, and he'd ask that horse to stop right there at the top of the approach to that run. And if you listen to what he said and analyze what he said that horse has to wait right there and check in. Well, he's going to stop that horse and either back it up or he's going to lope a circle or whatever to make it relax. He might just work on that 60 foot of area first. Maybe you could get you some paid warm-ups in some of them local horse shows, and just go through there and don't let her run. When she comes around there and wants to run, take and stop her. A local little circle, stop, come back to this end until you just get that horseshoe where she's just really quiet and she relaxes. That's the way I would go about doing that. But if you think about the way Jordan started it, I thought he did a great job. He said his horse has to wait on him before he can go run and stop. And did a great job with it. But
Does she do it at home also, or just when you show? Anytime. Well, even better then. You can work on it as much as you want.
Yeah, do that at home.
And mix it up. Mix a lot of stuff up. She knows that when she comes around there, she's going to turn and come in a straight line. Sometimes when you come around there, just do a full circle. And then sometimes come around and then go back to a circle. Sometimes come around, stop there, and roll back. It doesn't mean that every time you turn, you got to go down there and stop down there. You got to mix it all up, so pretty soon you take what she thinks she's got figured out of her mind. Because I don't think it's you. Obviously, it's a mare that's been shown a lot or ridden a lot, and she knows her job. You just need to get her to focus on you more than what she thinks she knows.
There. Love watching these senior horses riding and just being so happy in their work. When you compete at the FEI level, at World Equestrian Games, you can see other events where horses are 18, 19, and also working happily in their events. Can you tell me, a little bit controversially, tell me how you feel as professionals about riding in an event where the 3-year-old event is the pinnacle? Does that make sense?
I'll take that. Well, I think, I mean, there's definitely different ways of riding a horse. It doesn't matter how old they are. You got to keep in mind that some of those other age events where there's horses that are competing when they're 18, 19, those horses don't get started until they're 5. So basically, the amount of training, it's pretty much the same. They just take longer. This is a discipline that started a long time ago with young horses. I do believe that quarter horses are developed mentally and they mature a lot quicker. I've been around jumpers. I've been around some of those other horses, and I can tell you that they are not as mature as a 3-year-old than a horse that we ride is. I feel good about it as long as you're always conscious about your horse. Like I said, for the maneuvers, I do the same thing. I've got a horse at home that I thought was going to be my best 3-year-old this year, and he's probably not even going to go to the futurity because I showed him once, and I could tell that he was mentally, physically he was ready. Mentally, he was definitely not ready. Once I put everything together, he wasn't ready. I'm going back, I'm taking the pressure off, and if he makes it to the futurity, great. If not, I'll show him next year. So I don't think really it's about, showing the 3-year-old. It's about how we show him. It's about teaching trainers and people that get into the business on how to do it right. I think you need to listen to the horse. The horse will tell you how much he's ready to be pushed. I think you can push a 3-year-old as far as he's take it, and he'll last forever. Like you said, we've had horses in FEI events, maybe not as many as some of those other disciplines, but we're not as big as the other disciplines too. So we are riding horses that are 11 and 12, and they're still happy to do their job. So I think if you do the job right, obviously you're going to keep them going a long time. So I feel good about what we're doing. I just think that we need to keep trying to learn ourselves and teach new guys coming up how to do it right. Just because it's a 3-year-old event, it doesn't mean that every horse has to make it to the 3-year-old. And I think we burn a lot of horses up, people that really don't know what they're doing, and they think that that's their only shot to get the best out of their horse. There's all their life in front of them. Obviously, the futurity, it's a big deal to us, but I think that we can be smart about it.
Andrea,
Yeah.
Can you please finish the difference in how you sit between your spin and your rollback?
The way I sit is pretty much the same. It's just a different cue. Whenever I start my turnaround, I give him an extra cue that I don't give in the rollback. When I start the turnaround, I open my inside leg. If I'm turning to the right leg, I put my outside rein on him, and the horse knows that that's a turnaround. If I'm rolling back, I don't open that inside leg. So basically I'm stopping and I move and I use my outside leg to make him lope off. So neck rein only for the rollback. I open my inside leg for the turnaround. And it's not going to make the horse turn any better. It's just that it makes him think that he knows exactly the difference between the two. Because I caught myself to where I noticed after a while, not that I had too many problems in the show pen, but I noticed that I was using the same cue for both. So I had to do something in order to teach that horse the difference between the two. And that's just me. Other guys, I'm sure, have different cues.
Hi, Shawn. This message is for you. Doing your large circle where you come around going to your slow and open your inside leg, I'm just wondering, I'm assuming the first time you're doing that with the horse is going to fall into the circle? I'm just wondering what you do to correct that.
That's a good question. And a lot of times they do fall in. Most of the time when I typically slow a horse down, I will make him stay out there and do a slow, big circle. And then after I stay out there, then I'll come in and do 5 or 6 little ones. I very seldom will ever slow a horse down and instantly go into a little circle, because if you do, you'll throw that hip out and kind of get him out of whack. We'll make him slow down, go either in a straight line or stay out in that big circle, and then go into your little circle. It's a very good question.
Yeah, this question's for anybody who wants to answer it down there. Is there a sweet spot as age for an animal and the genetics of the animal that makes it better for training?
We typically, if they're the right size and they've had, that they're developed correctly, we typically start them in January of their 2-year-old year. And I think, it's kind of like taking your little kids to kindergarten or pre-K. Those horses aren't going out there and working a full day. It's just teaching them the basics and very slowly. And if you start that way, it's so much easier. Those horses learn the routine and they learn their job and they get confidence in it. And we're not going to make a horse that doesn't show promise continue to do this. If the horse doesn't want to do this, obviously it's not in our best interest to continue to do it. So we're going to take a horse and we're going to take our time with it. And if you work that horse consistently and teach it a little bit at a time, it's so much easier, and they learn how to work and they learn how to do their job, and then a lot of them learn how to really like it. Or they do like it a lot.
Well, think about this. I've had a lot of people that have told me, well, I know that you guys start them early, but I'm against it. I'm going to keep my horse until August, and then we're going to start it, and then I'll send him in training in September. Well, the window for me to train that horse now, I got to concentrate everything in 6 less months or 7 less months. So we're going to have to concentrate and actually work it harder. Are you telling me that at the end of his 2-year-old year, he's prepared to ride 45 minutes to an hour a day? No, he's not. So having that extra time and finding the right program to where he's going to get ridden those 15, 20 minutes for an extra 6 months, it's going to make it so much easier, like you said, on the horse.
Good evening, gentlemen. First of all, I just want to say it's an honor to have you in front of me, all 3 of you. You guys inspire me every day to be the best rider I can be, so thank you for all of your information. But as a new non-pro, what suggestions do you have for me? And I don't know if anyone else in this audience is in my position, and then keeping your horse going through the off-season.
Go ahead, Shawn.
No, I think the most important thing for a non-pro is have a horse that fits you. And then as far as keeping him going in the off-season, if you have a place just to kind of keep him legged up, but not necessarily work on your maneuvers all the time. Like this horse here, in his off-season, he might get lunged, he might get rode, maybe 3 or 4 days a week, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, just to keep him in shape. But as far as his routine of running and stopping, spinning hard or running circles hard, it's very minimal. He don't have to go do too much like that. I think when them horses like it that much, if you just drill them and drill them and drill them, sometimes they get tired of it and they get a little burned up. But just take and ride him, keep him soft in his neck and his hips, make him do the basics, but just don't ask him to do things hard there for 3 or 4 months, until you get ready to go. But when you do get ready to go, bring him back slowly. Have your timetable, say 90 days before you go to that horse show. Start building him up, okay? Don't just come out and say, we're 90 days, we're going to run and stop today. Start going gradually, 35 mile an hour, 45 mile an hour, 55 mile an hour. So think your way through that. But that's the way I would go about that as far as my downtime on those horses.
That's pretty fast, though. 55 miles an hour. Yeah. That's pretty fast. He goes fast. He likes to go fast. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As the president of NRHA, I want to tell all of you, and it's an honor to work with you three professionals in helping us promote the sport of reining. It's also, I want to thank all of you in the crowd for supporting our sport of reining. Thank you for coming, and thank you, Shawn, Andrea, and Jordan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.